Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome to Congregation Emanu-El. To begin, I would like to invite everyone to first turn off your devices if you are here, so we are totally present. If you're online, please keep your devices on so you can stay with us. And to start us off, I would like to invite the Hersons as well as the Genslers up to help us light the Shabbat candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Thank you. And so what I'd like to invite everyone to do is, because when you light the candles, you are in Shabbat, but we're actually not really welcoming the Shabbat completely in yet. So I'd like to have you turn around, introduce yourself to someone around you, and after a week like this, what are you hoping to bring in and transform into Shabbat? It's the most beautiful sound. We are continuing on page 20 with Lecha Dodi.
Ya la 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 lecha dodi Ya la 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 likrat kala Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela Ya la 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 lecha dodi Ya la 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 likrat kala Ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela Shamor lezachor v'dibor lecha ishmi'anu el am yechad Adonai echad v'shemo l'shem u'l'tiferet v'letil'ah yai lai lai la 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 lecha dodi yai 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 Shabbat גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמונה עם סגולה בואי חלה
We're on page 24 with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharei Malachei Elyon Mi Melech Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Boachem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu Baruchuni l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu Tzedchem l'shalom malachei hashalom malachei elyon mi melech malachei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Please rise on page 28 for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam
Please join me on page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us, shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל החי וקיים תמידים לא עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב
Page 32. Please join me. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai
Please be seated. We're on page 36.
ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לתוצפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We're on page 40.
Ichamoch pa'ilim Adonai V'kamoch nedar b'kodesh Nora Tehilot פלא נורא צהילות עושי פלא מלכותך ראובנך וכי הים לפני משה מרים צאלי ענו ואמרו ענו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם בהם אדוני ימלוך לעולם בהם איי 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 וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל
Page 373. Elna Rifana la Elna Rifana la Elna Rifana la Refuah Shalema. Try that with me. Elna Refana la Elna Refana la Elna Refana la Refuah Shalema.
As a congregation, we are praying for the healing of Frank Friedman, Rusty Holden, Ken Kramars, Leo Costow, Harris Weinberg, John Benjamin, Tony Barbasalin, Nancy Alpert, Burton R. Jackson, Donna Kraft, Ariel Cohn, and Mike Edelstein. If there's someone else who you are praying for the healing either of the body or of their spirit or both, if you'll please share their name when my hand passes over you. Mishaberach Avatenu Vimotenu, Abraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et Aholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bless and heal those who are ill. May the blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and a complete renewal of spirit. And let us all say, Amen.
Elna Refana la Elna Refana la Elna Refana la Refuah Shalem.
We're on page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom, Lishalom, Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim, Ufros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Fros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Amen.
Shelter us beneath your wings.
Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us daily wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
And that Hashkivenu, it has a different feel this week. Because Hashkivenu talks literally about this sukkah, this shelter of peace that comes over and protects us when we are surrounded by darkness and things we can't control and we cannot see. And then you move from there into the Amidah, which is different the rest of the week. The rest of the week, you're thinking about all the things we need, we have to do, the worries about the stock market, the crops. That's what the Amidah is about the rest of the week. But then it shifts on Shabbat, which is actually leaving behind everything that we just went through this week, and actually begins to narrow our focus on what we are appreciative that we have, and beginning to dream of the future that we would like to see. So when you're ready to be in that space of stepping into this new time of appreciation, of gratitude, and dreaming, at that point, I invite you to rise.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ulfi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please continue silently either with the words on the page or with the words in your heart. And when you have finished, please be seated.
A meditation coming off of a very difficult week. I'm going to teach you 4 words. You already know some of them, or you might know all of them. The first one is ahava. It means love. Everybody say ahava. We're going to say rachamim, compassion. Chesed, loving kindness. Shalom. Shalom. That's it. Now we're going to repeat that over and over again, very intentionally, with the hope that just for a minute, we may get collectively lost as a kahal, as a community. Close your eyes if you want to.
I first lived in Israel during my junior year abroad in college. I spent 2 months in the north of Israel, up in Haifa, and then 9 months in Jerusalem. And by the end of the year, I knew Jerusalem like the back of my hand. I could wander through the old city. Through the small alleyways, I would climb along the walls on the outer perimeter. I even knew secret stairways that would get me up to the rooftops so I could travel around the city on the rooftops. Jerusalem, it became my playground. I knew the topography of the hills and the valleys, but I didn't know the history or the memory of that land. I didn't get that till my 4th year of rabbinical school, where a professor would walk us through the land that I recognized, but I didn't truly know. And I'll never forget the day that our professor took us right outside of Jaffa Gate with the old city to our backs. And we went up to this railing, leaning against the railing, looking down into a valley. And it's a valley that I'd been through many times. I'd sat in there, I'd hiked through there. It's a place where there's a concert venue. There was a cinema, which I would go to every single week in this valley. And it was this beautiful park. This valley, it was known as the Valley of Hinnom. And in Hebrew, it had been called Gai Ben Hinnom. And then eventually it would be known as the Gehinnom Valley. And it was that word, Gehinnom, or Gehenna, that I knew. I mean, it jumped out at me. There was something, I had a visceral reaction because I'd studied that word. I'd heard it referenced in Jewish texts. I had read Gehenna. Gehenna is the word for hell. Gehenna is Jewish hell, which one may imagine as something which exists below us with devils and pitchforks and fire, just like we were told and we see in the movies. But that's not hell in Judaism. This place was the valley of Gehenna. This place was hell. And it was here that the Canaanites, they would take their children and they would sacrifice them to their god Molech in the Gehinnom Valley. It's where the Canaanites would kill their children. And I want to be clear in no uncertain terms that this was the Canaanites did. This is not what the Jews did who sacrificed their children. The Canaanites, they would take their children and sacrifice them, believing that killing their kids would bring them water, protect them from armies, and then appease their gods. As my colleague, Rabbi Howie Goldsmith, says, he would assume that there were individual Canaanites' parents who didn't feel good about the sacrificing of their children. But their society as a whole, they accepted it as a practice, as just it was the cost of doing business. That the sacrifice of a few children, it was worth keeping their god Molech happy. This is the place that we call hell in Judaism. The place that you murder children. The place that the Canaanite society allowed the murder of children. That's Gehenna. Now, do I need to stand up here tonight and tell you that Judaism is against killing kids? Do I need to get up here and tell you that Judaism has always been against societies that accept the loss of just a few kids here and there as just the cost of doing business? Because I don't think I need to change anyone's mind in here tonight. Because it's obvious to us. It's devastating. What horrifies us in Judaism, it's not what happens in the next world, but it's the darkest things that can happen in this world. The things that can happen in Sandy Hook and in Robb Elementary. That is Gehenna. So if you want to know what hell looks like, we are living in the Gehinnom Valley. Now, we act like we aren't. We act like we care as a nation. But it's not true, because we don't. We really don't care enough that our kids are being murdered. When my kids were younger, they were taught how to shelter in place at school if a shooter came. And it just wasn't my kids, it was kids across the country. Now, if we truly did care, we would actually do something about it. We would stop making these empty statements and moments of silence, making declarative orders that by lowering the American flag to half-staff for a few days, it's going to somehow soften the blow of something that we have become accustomed to, our kids being murdered in schools. Because that's just the cost of doing business in America. I remember in 1999, when 12 students were murdered in Columbine. It was the unimaginable. How could teens go on a campus and then kill other teens? But then it happened again, and again, and again. And eventually we were like a bunch of frogs in a pot of water where we changed our thinking. I mean, it's awful, but they're teens, they're almost adults. And these shootings, they're few and they're far between relative to the size of our country. And then we learned to live with the temperature of the water as it increased. And we, as a bunch of frogs, we just sat there. And the murder of our children continued. From the 10 dead at Red Lake, Minnesota in 2005, to the 33 dead at Virginia Tech in 2007, the 27 dead in Newtown, Connecticut in 2012, the 5 dead in Marysville, Washington in 2015, the 10 dead in Roseville, Oregon in 2015, the 17 dead in Parkland, Florida in 2017, and then 10 dead in Santa Fe, Texas in 2018. And after every single shooting, there are protests, the eyes they turn towards Washington asking for answers, moments of silence are taken. But the only thing that has been consistent for us as a nation is that we do not change our policy to stop the killing of our kids. Because if you live in the Gehinnom Valley, it's just the cost of doing business. But I gotta be honest, because about a decade ago, when 26 people were killed at Sandy Hook, small first graders hiding in the bathroom in the corner were shot to death. I remember leaving my meeting with Rabbi Pierce and then taking the long walk through the main sanctuary, dragging my feet, looking up at the stained glass, trying to understand the ununderstandable, and then closing the door to my study, crying, thinking of my own daughter who was 5. And then foolishly, I thought, this is it. It's going to change our country's ways. Because we must be a country to not want to see first graders shot and murdered. These weren't teens, these were first graders. But again and again, I'm reminded that this is the Gehinnom Valley. We may not like seeing our kids being killed, but we as a nation have done nothing to stop it. And now, 19 more are dead. Now, it wasn't the Canaanites who ended child sacrifice, because they didn't know how. It was too ingrained into their culture, into their psyches. It wasn't the Canaanites who stopped it, it was the Jews. You see, moments of silence are inappropriate in Judaism. Because what does a moment of silence change? It does nothing. The only ones allowed to be silent this week are the kids that are no longer alive. I'm sick of silence. I want to hear rage. I want to see tears. If we don't want to see our children murdered, then don't be silent. Now, silence, it's not what ended the Canaanite sacrifice of their children. It was Josiah who smashed the shrines of Molech so that no one would be able to kill children anymore. Now, Josiah was not silent. He smashed the infrastructure built to kill kids. And we knew as a people that it wasn't just about the infrastructure set up in the Gehinnom Valley. It was the narrative that society had accepted, so that we decided to smash that narrative too. It's a narrative that you all know. It's a narrative that is repeated every single year on Rosh Hashanah. The story that we tell is not about sacrificing children to Molech, but about testing the patriarch of our tradition with the same test that the Canaanites were given. In Genesis, in the story of the binding of Isaac in the Akedah, the Canaanites, they thought they were commanded to kill their children. So we read that Abraham was put to a test by God to sacrifice his own son. And you know where that story happens? Where he's commanded to sacrifice his own son? It's on the hill right above the Gehinnom Valley, on a hill looking straight down into hell. And it's in that same story that Abraham, at the peak of a hill, with his hand ready to strike his own son, that he's yelled by an angel, "Stop!" It's not what we do. And it's not only not something we do, but if you think for a second that killing a child is accepted and desired by God, you're no longer included in the conversation. Abraham had spent his entire life talking with God, challenging God, until the exact moment when Abraham gets to the edge of sacrificing his own son. God never speaks to him again the rest of his life. Because Abraham does almost the unthinkable. It's an angel that has to stop him, because God cannot talk to a person who would even entertain the idea. And then year in and year out, we're reminded, don't lay a hand on that child. We are told this story when the Canaanites were in power. We would rail against the people in positions of power when they were doing this, when we had no power at all, never forgetting what we stood for. Now, when the Canaanites, when they murdered their kids in that valley, and the majority of society, they sat idly by, and maybe they were saying behind closed doors that it was awful, that sacrifice of children, it was part of their culture. Those quiet conversations, they did not change the Canaanites, because this is who they were. It's what they valued. It took a rebuke from a minority that cared so passionately that it was only when you got out from behind the closed doors and changed the narrative that killing kids was not okay. It was only then that things actually changed. We did this because we did not want to live in Gehenna anymore. And the question for all of us is, how much longer do we want to live in Gehenna? Now, I know where we stand. We're opposed to children being murdered. But our nation does not hold that same value. If our nation did, there would be background checks. I know where my governor stands. I know my governor is opposed to the Gehenna Valley. I know where our congresswoman stands, where our senator stands, where the state legislator stands. And it's not just the blue states that feel this way, or a minority who want background checks. In fact, according to the Public Policy Polling Survey, 83% of gun owners support expanded background checks on sales of all firearms, including 72% of all NRA members. But I feel powerless because it's to no avail. Because there are other people with more votes, with more power, that don't care enough to stop the murdering of our children in schools. Because for them, it's just the cost of doing business. And we know exactly what to do because we've been through this before. We've lived in a land that transformed from the Gehenna Valley to the holiest city in the entire world, in the exact same place, but totally different values. And that metamorphosis, it didn't happen through silence. It happened through rage. You see, silence has never been the answer in Judaism. It's not been to sugarcoat what is hell on earth, but instead to name it that, hell. Because that's what we're living through this week, this month, these decades. This is what Gehenna looks like. And as Jews, we can imagine nothing worse. Because we're not meant to be silent, but to wail, and not to avoid the pain, but to amplify the outrage. Avoiding pain and the brutal, painful facts of reality is not what we do in Judaism. Allowing yourself to be overwhelmed, allowing your tears to well up inside of you, that this is real, this is painful. It's the only way to transform pain and loss and then make it to the other side. It's not to avoid the pain and it's not to avoid the loss, but rather to go straight into the pain. That's what it means in the 126th Psalm when we read, "Those who sow in tears will reap in joy." Those who truly go into the tears, into their pain, and they don't hide it or avoid it, but they let the river of those tears water the ground of the Gehenna Valley that we are living in. Those tears, they make the land become fertile. Because those tears are the life source of where joy and peace come from. Those tears are the same tears which transform the Gehenna Valley to the city of Jerusalem. And it's our tears, our pain, our outrage, not the blockade to joy and to peace, but they're the actual path that must be used to transform our Gehinnom Valley.
Rabbi Bauer asked me for a moment of rage and a moment of tears. I wrote this song almost 9 years ago to the day when a teenage boy was shot down in Evanston, Illinois, about 3 blocks from the synagogue. I don't like singing this song. I don't ever want to sing this song again. I changed some of the lyrics this afternoon. I wrote this song with Barb Wertico. It's called All the Love. All the love, all the pain buried in our souls, all the dreams, the wasted dreams, they will never know. For the children who sit at their desks, can they learn? Can they learn? Do we owe them that piece of respect in return? In return, tell the 100 to put out this fire. They can try. They can try. If their guns would decide to retire, would we die? All the love, all the pain buried in our souls, all the dreams, the wasted dreams, they will never know. Will the future be more than a light in your eyes? In your eyes, will you never give up on the fight for their lives? For their lives, for mistakes that play out on repeat. Tell me why. Tell me why. For the children who die in the streets, will you cry? No reason why. No reason why they walk away. Their names. No reason why. No reason why the days go by and still more lies. No reason why. No reason why. No reason why. Why? No reason why. No reason why. All the love, all the pain buried in our souls, all the dreams, the wasted dreams, they will never know. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy.
will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy. Will reap in joy. Who sow in tears will reap in joy.
We remember those who passed away this last week. Alexandria Rubio, Amir Joe Garza, Anabel Guadalupe Rodriguez, Alejandra Cruz Torres, Eliana Garcia, Jackie Cazares, Luzia Garcia, Rogelio Torres, Xavier Lopez, Neve Bravo, McKenny Lee Elrod, Tess Marie Mata, Jace Lubanos, Helia Nicole Silaguro, Alitha Ramirez, Matia Rodriguez, Jose Flores. And we remember those who will be laid to rest after the Shabbat, Shannon Sean Steckel, and those who passed away in the last 30 days, Hilda Richards, Louis Rovens, Helene Edelson, Valerie Atkins, Alan Bumpy Friedman, Susan Brockstein, Florence Kavinsky, Celia Sally Sassoon, and Henry Weinstein. And we remember those whose yahrzeit, whose anniversary of their passing is on this Shabbat. Ezra Batat, Mel Bellett, Rose Berchlaus, Elliot Cherry, Edris Cole, Martin S. Coleman, Esther Corin, Nathan David, Maria E. Diamond, Lottie Ehrman, Jeanette Eisenstein, Harriet Epstein, Herman Gaudier, Leona Geller, Raisa Goldstein, Joel Irving Green, Irvin Hansher, Gabrielle Hartog, Abraham Haim, Irma Hirsch, Joyce Hofspiegel, Lisa Hunter, Benjamin Samuel Immerschein, Anne Juniver Henseling, Ernest Lampert, Sylvia Leff, Maxine Leventhal, Karen Lieberman, Chi Wei Lin, Jack Lipman, Ruth Monsbach, William Miller, Marcus Mitchell, Stuart Muldau, Louis Narvez, Dora Nebenzal, Dorothy Selig Newman, Sarah Pollock, Nadia Rotenberg, David Rotenberg, Oscar Rushikoff, Nadine Rushikoff, Dori Schneider, Lazar Shegalov, Maurice A. Scheinfeld, James Keene Stack Jr., Louis Teichman, Kate Harry Tulchin, Herb Wander, Florence Wardy, Eileen Weiss, Francine Wolf, and Meyer Yanowitz. If there is someone you are remembering who passed away in the last week, in the last 30 days, in the last year, or this is the yahrzeit, the anniversary of your loved one's passing. If you'll please share their name when my hand passes over you. And as a community, we rise and turn to page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash me'raba v'yamad yivrach yotei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael b'agala uzman kari v'imru amen Yehei shmei rabam v'arach le'olam omei omeyah Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei d'kudashah, brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, tamiran b'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen.
Prayer on behalf of the children who were taken this week. May your dreams bring you peace in the darkness. May you always rise over the rain. May the light from above always lead you to love. May you stay in the arms of the angels. May you always be brave in the shadows till the sun shines upon you again. Hear this prayer in my heart, and will ne'er be apart. May you stay in the arms of the angels. Oh, say shalom bimromah. Uya say shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru
So in Shabbat, we take everything that we have felt, everything that we know we need to do, and then we begin to put our sights above of where we're going. And then you try to feel that. And so one of the primary things which the rabbis do at the most sacred of events, which in Judaism is kind of often, is that we do the blessing over the wine. And it's interesting because that word Kiddush, which a lot of us know, it comes from holy. And you wonder, why? What makes that holy? And it's revealing if you actually rewind and look at what the rabbis have done with the Kiddush, because the blessing that we say, it's not the blessing over the wine, it's blessing over what? The fruit of the vine, which is weird because I'm saying blessing over wine. How is that sacred? Because the fruit, when you hit crush season, October in Napa, and you pull those grapes, they have a potential. And then you squeeze them, and they can go any direction. And the direction of wine in Judaism represents joy. That's what we're praying for. We're tasting something which starts here but ends there. And so as a community, when you take those emotions and those feelings, you think about where we are, and you celebrate the bar and the bat mitzvahs tomorrow, it really is about looking forward and saying, those are the grapes of this generation. So I would like to invite up our future to lead us in the Friday night Kiddush. And if you could take the wine glasses with you and bring them up here.
Shabbat Kodsho, Le'ahava Ufratzon Himanu, Zikaron Le'maseh Le'reshit, Le'on Tehillah, Le'mikai Kodesh, Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim, Kikonu Achata, Kidam. Shabbat Kodshecha Le'ahava Ufratzon Hinhaltanu Baruch Atah Adonai Le'adish HaShabbat.
We gave them Charles Shaw. So upcoming announcements. The first thing is, if you could please take your prayer books with you to the back of the sanctuary and put them on the cart at the very end. That'd be great. It would give our staff some Shabbat as well. Other announcements is that you have a handout in there, plus on the website, plus Shavuot is coming up, which 99.9% of Jews in America don't realize is actually like one of our highest holidays, so we'd love to have you join us, learn.
We want to make sure you know, too, that Shavuot was going to be at Manny's, but because of the increased COVID numbers, Shavuot is only going to be on Zoom. So please do register and join us for it.
It's much easier parking on Zoom. So if I could have the Blumenthal's, grab the challah for me. And take that right out to the middle of the aisle, and then if everyone with your prayer book in one hand could touch the challah or touch someone who is touching the challah, and we're going to make a big challah chain here. And if you'll join us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei Adon. Shabbat shalom. Lo dich gehat koyev, lo dich geloben in de Gassen, lo dich geschrien in de Scholem, 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 Scholem. If my voice were louder, if my body stronger, I would tear through the streets, shouting peace, 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 peace. Lo dich gehat koyech, lo dich gelaufen in de Gassen, lo dich geschrien in de Schole.